So, hi, anyone who could possibly be watching this, which will probably be no one until like 5 years from now, when they're bored and like trying to find a backlog of things that I've done in the past, if even then. Anyway, uh, so I thought I would start doing sort of like a video log of stuff that I've been up to, basically. It's kind of tracking what my life is like because I don't know, I've never done anything like that before. Basically, even more specific than video log, more like a video diary to kind of like dump my thoughts in some recorded way, which is strange, right? It's strange that in the future we're kind of moving towards a point where everyone's recording everything that they're doing at all times. Like, I think eventually it'll get to the point where people basically have chips in their brains that are constantly streaming what they're experiencing, and you could at any time view that link to someone else's experience, everything, all of their senses, that data into yourself at any moment. It'll be this weird pyramid scheme of, are you living a life cool enough that other people want to experience it, or are you living a life that you want to escape from because you don't enjoy it? And we're basically already there. It's just that technology isn't good enough for us to be doing it 24/7. Creepy. Anyway, but I'm not. That's not why I'm doing this. I just want to, I don't know, kind of document things that I go through because it's a brave new world out there, folks. Post pandemic, or at least hopefully post. So anyway, so it's 2021. I've moved to New York City. I live in the Upper Manhattan area, to be specific, without being too specific. And I'm kind of recommitting myself to pursuing music full time after kind of having this odd break in South Korea where I was teaching English but then playing in bands on the side, and I did music a lot. I was still practicing every day, rehearsing every week, playing gigs almost every week, sometimes twice a week, in various styles of music, and that was a whole lot of fun. And we were touring all over the peninsula, and I made some Korean friends that I would play like more legit style gigs, like jazz stuff at music festivals and more upscale venues. That was nice too. Experienced a lot of things over there. Anyway, but now I'm back in the US of A, and yeah, so who knows what living in New York will bring. So far, what it's brung? So far, what's happened is not a lot. Like, I've been here for about a month. I've been spending that time following up on leads for jobs that I was pursuing when I was still back in Texas with my family during the whole pandemic time period, which I'd rather completely forget. But I guess, but it ended up being kind of a slow way to get acquainted with American lifestyle, I guess. I don't know if that helped or not. Hopefully it did. I'm wearing this thing because usually there's a lot of noise outside, and I thought if I can move the source, well, the microphone specifically, if I can move the microphone closer to my mouth, then hopefully it'll be easier to cut down on outside noise from people playing their music on the street or people making noise on other rooms in the building. Who knows? Right now it's really rainy, so there isn't people playing music on the street, but I guess that could change. Who knows? But hopefully it's better that I can keep the mic level low now that this thing is close to my mouth. Um, but anyway, so what has happened so far? I've pursued several leads for jobs. There's two different places in New Jersey that I'm going to start teaching at. There's a school that has two locations in Brooklyn and one location in Staten Island. What is going on outside? I think someone's so you can't hear that, but what I can hear is someone is very loudly vomiting right outside of my window. There's always something going on in New York. That's beautiful. It's beautiful that happened right this moment. Anyway, so to the background track of someone loudly, profusely vomiting on the street. Yeah, I'll be teaching at some place in Ridgewood, New Jersey. I'll be teaching at a place. Well, that's a music and arts center. Why not? Why not? Why not be specific? There's a private school. I'm still hearing what's going on outside. But it's very loud to me. I don't know if you can hear it. Anyway, uh, and I'm also a private school called New York String Academy in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is basically a Koreatown, which is interesting because it kind of feels like home walking around there. Now that since I was in Korea for 4 years, it still feels like a dysfunctional home, if that makes sense. Not in any way denigrating Korea, but I mean, if you live in Korea, you know how even if you live there for years, it's like you never quite fit in. You're just welcomed as the outsider. Like, oh, you're my favorite outsider person who we won't really get along with, but I'll still be your friend. Anyway, kind of reminded of that feeling while walking around Koreatown and seeing lots of Korean restaurants. I really miss Korean food so much. I crave it like at least once a week. I don't know. I've got to check out some. I know there are some Korean barbecue restaurants downtown Manhattan area. But if you go to a place like that, you can't go alone. Like you have to sit at the table and you grill the meat yourself. It's like you got to go there with like at least three friends, like four people to a table. That's how you do that. So I gotta make some friends first, and then I'll go out. I got a couple of people I know in town, so whatever. But anyway, so hold off on that. I've been to a nice ramen place, a couple different places. I went to a sushi and ramen place in New Jersey with a Texas friend. When I was checking out, I was here around the 4th of July, so I got to see the fireworks. That was cool. But I was just checking out different places to live, and I went to a Naruto ramen restaurant, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it was really good. Ramen is great. Something about miso ramen, it's like something that I crave once. I really crave it if I haven't had it in a while. But then when I eat a bowl of it, I'm like, "Ah, I'm done." Like there's something, I don't know if that's the umami flavor that people talk about. But anyway, it's so savory that it feels like heaven for the first couple of bites. But then when I'm done with one bowl, it's like I don't want to eat anything ever again. I think I'm done. I'm done with food now. I finally cured all hunger that I will ever have for the rest of my life. So anyway, what am I talking about? So I'll be teaching at those places, and the place in that has a few locations in Brooklyn, which is called Music Box or something. And there's several other places that I've also applied for. I've applied to some community colleges that want either some adult education enrichment classes for guitar, or some other places that want like intro to popular music, intro to contemporary music, intro to jazz, that sort of thing. Basic courses for people who are not music majors is kind of is what it sounds like to me anyway. And I've done a little bit of all that stuff before, so we'll see. Who knows? I mean, college jobs are kind of a thing now where like everything is switched to a glorified term, adjunct, which means part-time, just like in every other business, everything's moving to part-time. They'd rather hire two part-time workers and not pay them benefits than hire one full-time worker and pay that person benefits. And it's the same thing in the university system, and they try to make you feel good about it by like, well, I'm not a part-time worker. I'm an adjunct professor. So I can still feel superior to you, even though I basically work part-time, just like I would if I worked at McDonald's. But anyway, it's a part-time job. That's what adjunct professor means, essentially. So anyway, the way that college things go, I mean, usually you have to know a guy who knows a guy, right? It's like you have to have connections often to work in the university system, and you have to know how to play a social game a lot of the times. And I mean, and that's okay. That's the way a lot of businesses are. But in education, university, academia, living that academic life, in that system, yeah, there's a lot of social stuff. I mean, if you want to call it politics, there's a lot of politics in my workplace. I don't know, it's a popularity contest. Yeah, there's a lot of stock phrases that people say to explain the situation. Anyway, there's just always a social game at play. And sometimes, if you're still working with great people, it doesn't matter. But if you're working with people who can be difficult to work with, then yeah, then it can become very difficult, very exhausting very quickly. Hopefully that's not a situation that I'll run to anytime soon. We'll see. Anyway, I guess my whole point, what I'm trying to say, is that I don't have any burning desire to work in the academic system anymore after seeing it as a graduate teaching assistant. I'm like, oh wow, these people are really kind of miserable and hate themselves and hate everyone else that they work with, and have to go into and still have to go into work every day with a smile and like, anyway, whatever. Not every work situation is like that. Not every academic situation is like that. But yeah, the academic system is one that's so competitive, and there's so many qualified people, and jobs are very scarce, that it forces a lot of people to work in toxic environments that they don't want to work in. I'm single. I don't have kids. I don't have a house. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have a car to pay off. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't even have debt. No credit card debt. No school debt. No loans. That's what living in South Korea helped me do. So my point is, if I find myself in a toxic environment, I can just be like, yeah, I don't feel like working anymore, and I can just leave. Of course, I would do it in a professional way. I would make sure that I gave notice and all that other stuff, and I probably wouldn't air any great, my younger self would be like, I don't like you in particular, and I never liked you, and my older self is less prone to, sometimes I still get the urge, but like, I don't feel the need to do that kind of stuff anymore. If you're not happy somewhere, just leave. Again, if you don't have any other mouths to feed, if you're pretty self-contained in your lifestyle, if you don't like what you're doing, then leave. That's my philosophy. Find something that makes you happy. Yeah, anyway. So, again, this is pretty stream of consciousness going on here. And an opportunity to test my things. I've got camera, lighting, got this thing that helps me hopefully cut down on external noise. I also have in-ear monitors. I'm not using them at the moment because I just checked the level. It's my voice. I can hear myself in the room. Who cares? But I will start doing some lesson videos that I will record. I have several guitars over there. I don't need to really show them. Who cares? But I can plug my guitar in direct. I have an amplifier and speaker sim that's analog that's on the floor, along with some reverb delay, some other groovy pedals and stuff. So I can plug that in, I can play, I can talk, I can teach all at the same time. So hopefully I'll start doing that soon, and hopefully I'll start doing some performance videos somewhat regularly. I don't know. I'd like to be regular, but sometimes if I'm too ambitious and I write a bunch of goals on the wall, which I have right now, which is staring me in the face, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. You're like, oh, well, if I don't do all of those things, then I'm kind of a loser and I'll just stay in bed. So goals are nice, but you also have to be kind to yourself at the same time and realize that if you don't meet all of your goals all the time, it's okay. So anyway, hopefully I'll be doing some performance videos, some lesson videos. This, which is what I'm calling a vlog, but it's almost more like a video diary, because I'll be talking about what happens, how it goes when I teach, how it goes if I start performing, all that kinds of stuff. Currently, I'm scared to death to perform. What I'm trying to do is get my chops back after 2020 being the least practiced time of my probably entire life. If you don't practice for a long time, then you start practicing heavily. You start getting, and when you're in your 30s and you're not a kid anymore, you start getting cramps and stuff. Cramps and weird muscle issues going on in your forearms. Most of your muscles that control your fingers are in your forearms anyway, so you don't really feel it. At least me, I don't really feel it in my hands much. I feel it in my forearms. I get these really weird twitches, muscle spasms right in here, and I'll just sit and it'll starts vibrating and stuff. And I think that could also be related to like vitamins and hydration. If it usually doesn't happen if I stay hydrated, if I'm taking my vitamins, if I'm eating good foods like, vegetables, fruits, and lean meats and stuff. If I get lazy and it's like, oh, I didn't drink a lot of water today, I drank a lot of coffee because that's fun. And then I ate a lot of pizza and I didn't eat any vegetables. Yeah, then sometimes, if I don't get enough sleep, all those factors combined, I'll get these weird twitches and spasms in my muscles that are not controllable, and that's not very fun. Doesn't happen when I play, but it's like once my muscles try to relax, then they go nuts and they start vibrating. Anyway, what was my point? That's bad, okay? Yeah, that's bad. So yeah, so this is going to be more like a video diary thing talking about. Oh yeah, I was saying that I'm kind of scared to death to perform because like, because you don't do it for a while. I performed 3 times in 2020 basically. I think three or four, probably three. But anyway, if you don't really keep up with playing a lot every day, my point was you're not conditioned anymore. It's like running. You wouldn't, if you like to run marathons or whatever, and you're used to it, you can do it. But if you took an entire year off, how well would you perform if you did a marathon without training first? It would be terrible. It would be terrible. You wouldn't be able to finish. So yeah, so it's like I want to get out there to like jam sessions in NYC, and I've had people that I'm friends with even send me links, even try to introduce me to people. It's like, yeah, you should go here, meet these people, and play. And it's like, I really want to do that. Kind of terrified at the moment because it's like, yeah, I gotta get back to a more regular practice schedule and really putting some ideas back together in the way that they were when I was performing regularly in like 2017 through 2019 before I feel comfortable to go to a New York jam with people who are people who are top talents all over the world come here to compete and to meet people and to make things happen. Anyway, not that it has to, whatever. I'm an adult. An adult. I don't need to be intimidated by other people, but yeah, trying to put some things together practice wise before I go out there. There's a lot of ideas that I've had recently that I want to get together, want to organize, put down maybe on paper first, and then yeah, I would love to publish some like teaching material that I have in mind, but I have to first have to organize it. Like I have some ideas for how to practice extended lines, basic. It's like extended lines of chromatic bebop style. How to infuse your lines with chromatic bebop phrasing specifically for guitarists. Pat Martino is really great at that. He plays a lot of stuff where he takes a basic linear idea that you could play in quarter notes or eighth notes, but he adds these little chromatic enclosures that flow along with the whole line, whether it's ascending or descending, whatever, in a way that turns it into what sounds like a burning, killing man, a burning 16th note line or whatever. And he's, in school, for example, a lot of times when they talk about chromatic enclosures, they're talking about doing that in chord tones, for example. Chord tones or even arpeggiated chord tones, multiple chord tones per chord. But what someone like Pat Martino is doing is he's actually adding chromatic notes that target every single note in a scale that flows. So I'm trying to work out my own perspective on that, and then maybe I'll turn that into something that I publish either online, maybe for free, maybe for a couple of bucks, or maybe I'll do some free videos online, and then I'll say, yeah, but you can get this PDF that explains the whole thing. If you want to do an extended study on it for a couple of dollars, whatever, just something. Or maybe I'll try to publish it in some journal or something. But again, that goes back to the, working in academia. It's not all it's cracked up to be. If you can get in there, it can be a great, it can give you a lot of job security, maybe. Again, these days everything's part-time essentially. Anyway, but it would be great if I could publish some stuff that I could get into a journal at some point. That would be cool, a music journal. Um, but yeah, but I also want to organize some concepts of like comping in terms of chordal planing. Like, when people talk about chord scales, they're usually talking about how you play single note lines. But a lot of what I hear in more contemporary comping styles is it just sounds like they're essentially improvising a line that they harmonize in multiple voices. So they're not thinking of it as in like, here's a block chord, here's a block chord, here's an inversion of a block chord. It's more like, here's four. I don't need to cover up my face. Here's 4 lines. Let's even do it this way. It's easier, right? Let's do it that way. Whatever. He's flipping back and forth. So if you have like 4 lines of music, instead of thinking of it in the classical way as that now they need to like flip over into a different chord structure, and maybe we'll invert that so the chord tones are close, but it still is like a completely different structure. A lot of jazz guys, at least when I listen, it's more like here's just 4 linear voices, and they're going to flow through the scale. The whole thing is going to move up. It's planing. And that's something that was actually common in classical music if you it can include the like Renaissance and early area. Like early church music was that, where you would just have parallel lines of music that then, um, yeah, that followed each other, parallel motion through the scale. And when I hear a lot of contemporary guitar players comp, that's what they're doing. And even it even can map onto what piano players are doing a lot of the time. So anyway, so I want to work on that and see if I can, organize it in a really logical way so it's something I could use to teach. The difference between a great player and a great educator is what, at least in my opinion, is being able to organize and then articulate ideas in a clear way. Because these guys out there who can play rings around me, but you sit down and try to get them to explain what they're doing, and they can hardly do it. They can hardly. Known some musicians who can hardly articulate any ideas, formally organized ideas. If they're a really creative person, they have a really creative personality. That may not just be what they're talented at. Anyway, so I want to be a better educator. So I want to be better at organizing and articulating clear ideas, clear concepts. I want to be just as good at doing that as I am at performing clear ideas on an instrument. So yeah, things like that. Multi-string legato patterns. That's something I want to talk about eventually, because that's something that, like Jonathan Kreisberg, that's how I would describe what he does. If you play it on a piano, it would be similar to like a pianist holding a chord shape with their fingers, but then only playing some of those notes. If you've seen like a contemporary piano player do that, that's what they do sometimes. They'll hold a chord shape, they'll hold down some of the notes so they vibrate, but they don't strike them, and then they'll use their other hand to like arpeggiate notes around that. So you're taking out, it's almost like a digital arpeggiator, a sequencer. You have a basic chord or a basic arpeggio, and then you leave some notes out of the pattern, which actually makes it more interesting than if all the notes were there. So someone like Jonathan Kreisberg, he does that a lot by basically taking an arpeggio shape, playing it in a legato style, so some of the notes he's pulling off instead of striking with the pick, and he just leaves some strings out. So it's like, I'm going to play this big arpeggio pattern, except I'm only going to play the first, second, maybe the fourth, and the sixth string. Like, he does that a lot. And so I've been playing with that idea in other ways, just taking the concept, moving it around. Like, you can do the same thing. Like, you can either take a small pattern, it's like, well, this just sits on top of the first three strings of the guitar. Or you could spread that out. It's like this pattern exists in three strings, but it's like the first, third, and fifth string, something like that. So then you're skipping right? First, skip the second, third, skip the fourth, fifth, or vice versa. Move that down. That would be second, skip the third, fourth, skip the fifth, sixth, something like that. So multi-string legato patterns. That's an easy phrase to kind of conceptualize that whole idea. And then like odd note groupings. That's some things that modern guitar players do too. So anyway, there's a lot of these ideas. I'm just throwing them out there right now, and I probably should stop soon. I'm already past 20 minutes here. Nobody wants to sit and watch a guy who's just like sitting there talking, right? Anyway, maybe someone will if you're really bored. Well, there's some concepts I'll be working on eventually, and maybe eventually publishing in some way, either by myself or if I can find a company who is interested in selling those kinds of things, maybe I'll do it that way. But whatever. I'll be working on that stuff by myself. I'll be working on videos that I can throw up online. I don't ever want to become like a YouTuber or anything like that. I just want to find a way to self-promote. That's pretty much all it is. And by doing something like this, video logging, that's just a way to, I don't know, whatever. Just to clue people into what I'm doing. Maybe I'm sure there will be interesting times in the future where I can tell stories about what it's like living in New York and playing guitar. Whoopee. But yeah, just an interesting way to document experiences while I'm here. Anything else that I want to talk about? I'm looking at my goal wall over there. I don't think there's anything worth talking about right now. Anyway, so yeah, month number 1 of living in New York. I haven't done a lot except um, looking for work, but I've been pretty successful at that. I was able to get 2 job offers from 2 different states in one day. I went all the way from New Jersey to like Southwest Brooklyn in an afternoon. I had one interview in New Jersey and one interview over in Brooklyn. That was fun. I mean, it was a fun day. It really was, but it was busy. Busy but fun day. I'd much rather be busy than sitting around in my apartment doing nothing. So anyway, so the job search is going well, and I don't know if I want to talk about personal finances anytime in the future, but I've already worked it all out on paper, all my finances, what my finance goals are, how much money I need to make to pay for my lifestyle, etc. I won't get into that now, and I don't know if I will choose to make that all public or not. But anyway, regardless, it's fair enough to say my financial goals are extremely low. I know how to be poor. And if you know how to do it, if you've ever been poor at any point in your life, it's like a survival skill, and you always know how to go back to a bare bones budget without, relatively pain free in the future if you need to. So right now, like I'm doing fine, and I could do fine for like another year. I could not. I couldn't. Anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter if I work right now or not, but I'm trying to get as full of a schedule as possible because that's just how I like to do things. I like to be busy. I like to work. So yeah, that's about it. That's about it. And yeah, I might do more stuff like this in the future. Need to get into some more lesson stuff. Need to get into some more performance stuff too. Performance videos of like little. I like making like fingerstyle arrangements of pop and rock songs because it's just a fun way to practice. It's easier than doing a full arrangement of like a jazz song. And I don't know, maybe people will be interested. Like I've been working on some songs by Mr. Big because I love Paul Gilbert. He's one of my favorite rock guitar players. And some of those Mr. Big songs, even though the harmony is very simple, playing the harmony with the melody together on one instrument, it's just really nice. And it fits with the guitar well because they're in guitar, like easy guitar keys, like the key of E. So you can get that low E in there. Anyway, so maybe I'll record some stuff like that. Who knows? Whatever. Random horn outside. Anyway, yeah, that's about it. I hope this week that I get some more info on work that's coming up because the school semester will be starting in September. I need to figure out how I'm going to coordinate the schedules of all these various schools and after school programs that I plan to work for. So that'll be fun. Stressful, but fun. But once we get going, it'll kind of settle into a groove. So yeah, so that'll be cool. That's what I'm focusing on for the end of August and early September is just coordinating my schedule at all these various work locations. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm up to right now. Anyway, that's about it. I can't think of anything else to talk about. I'm wearing this Ole Arts Festival shirt that I got from a jazz performance in Korea. That was fun. That was a fun memory. Anyway, I think that's about it for now. Yeah, I'm gonna go. So anyone who will ever watch this in the future, hi and bye.